I'm not relying on a job, on a car, on an apartment, on a house, on a boyfriend, on an opportunity, on a trip, on a piece of jewelry, on a lipstick, like on a hairstyle. I'm not relying on anything to give me my worth and my value and my peace and my joy. It is 100% internal, coming from me, coming from God. Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. I hope you're appreciating the pink lip, all right? I was looking back at that montage video I made about my 5 almost years on YouTube, and I did so much in the beginning in terms of my face, in terms of my makeup, in terms of my lip game, and then you just see over time, I was just like, no, I might give you a black eyeliner, and then I stopped doing that, and then I might throw in a lip, and then I stopped doing that, and I just feel like overall my look has just gotten more and more just like androgynous, which I'm gonna say, I don't mind. I don't mind. It's just like mysterious, like who is she? Is she a they? Like, what's her energy? And I like that, keeping you guessing, you know? But I'm batch recording, and I wanted to make this video look a little bit different than the other video I recorded. So I was like, we're gonna throw on a hoodie, we're gonna throw on a lip. The people are gonna be like, what day is it? That's what I'm bringing you today. So in this video, wow, what a long preamble. In this video, we're gonna talk about the fact that I'm not high at this moment, and I have not been high in months, in about 3.5 months, to be honest. And I just wanna reflect on what this experience of not doing marijuana, you know, how that has impacted my life. Before we get into it, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, let me know in the comments, do you smoke weed? Are you a drug user, all right? Where did you start? How does it affect you? Are you addicted, or is it a habit? Could you stop if you wanted to? These are all the questions. And it's so interesting because I remember a few years ago telling one of my brothers that I had smoked, and like he like made like an offhanded comment sometime later about like, I'm gonna tell our dad that you're smoking. And I was like, that's so interesting how, you know, the extent to which our parents' beliefs and expectations and all these things influence the choices we make, and to what extent we as adults continue to make choices because we're worried about what our mom or dad is gonna say, you know, just the levels to that. Because a few years ago, I definitely wouldn't have said publicly, this is a public platform, all right, that I had ever done drugs, you know, any of them, including marijuana, which we all know is basically a plant. That's like tea, you know? Smoking weed is like drinking a cup of tea, let's be honest. And to be clear, in this video, I am not glorifying doing them sweet, sweet drugs, because that would affect my ability to get them AdSense dollars, all right? We are not glorifying marijuana on this channel. Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about my journey towards drugs, you know, going to the dark side, and then how I got on out of there, and now I'm in the light. I think it's interesting to note that this kind of energy that I'm giving y'all, an older version of me would smoke a little bit to get to this energy, right? Because that older version of me would use it as a way to escape feelings of anxiety, feelings of fear, feelings of nervousness. And I learned recently from Dr. James Hart, if you watched my live around Untethered Soul, then you know like the Dr. James Hart stuff around like alpha brainwaves and all that. I'll include the link below to the podcast, because to me it's very revolutionary and like kind of wild, but essentially like your alpha brainwaves are the ones connected to creativity and longevity and like basically life itself. And the more of those you have, the happier you are, etc. And the more you are ruled by your beta brainwaves, the ones that are focused on like thinking and planning and logistics, the more likely you are to be super anxious and depressed and all those bad things. And so what I learned is that doing things like smoking, like drinking, having a lot of caffeine, even things, which is, to me, this is the most radical part, even things like garlic and onion, those things impact your ability to create your own alpha waves. So essentially, by doing things like meditating and mindfulness and forgiveness, you are actually able to raise your own alpha levels yourself. But doing things like smoking weed impacts your ability to do it yourself. And what I found is that, you know, it gives you, what these things do is they give you an artificial alpha, well, they give you an alpha high, but it's not, it's externally created, right? And so when it goes away, it's no longer there, and it's harder for you to create your own. And so yeah, that was exactly my experience, is that I found that I started to rely on weed to make me feel the kind of naturally high, joyous, effervescent, social butterfly person I naturally am. I would start to rely on weed to give me that. And I found that being in LA was a major reason why that happened. Before being in LA, I lived in Maryland. I didn't smoke until I was in I smoked like once in college, but that wasn't really serious. It wasn't really a thing. When I got to graduate school, our next door neighbor was a drug dealer, so we had to hook up. So that's when I like got my first little bit of weed and kind of started smoking it very, very sporadically. And then what happened? A job stressed me out. If your job drives you to do drugs, maybe don't work at that job, all right? Sometimes you gotta say it. You gotta say this clearly, okay? If you're at a job right now and you gotta get high before or after to do it, reconsider, okay? So basically, like, that's when it started to increase. Like, I'd have really stressful calls, really stressful meetings, really stressful events, whatever else, just feel overwhelmed by the amount of stuff I had to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a little puff puff. I'm gonna feel a little bit better. It's all gonna be good. And I think what's trying to say what's great about weed. I think what weed did for me then was that it helped me put things in perspective, right? Like, if you're very caught up in anything, it narrows your focus and it makes you think that that thing is the most important thing. This email that I'm about to send is the most important email of my life, you know? Like, everything just seems so magnified. And in reality, it don't matter, you know? In a year, will you remember that email? I can't even think of things really to reference from that first job because so little of it ended up having repercussions in terms of like the grand scheme of life, right? In 1 year, in 6 months, you know, tomorrow, like, will these things still matter? Will you remember this thing, you know? What weed did for me then was help me like broaden the perspective and realize like, wait, actually, it's fine. This is fine. I am fine. It's all going to be fine. And in fact, it is fine right now. And I really needed that, right? Because I didn't have any of the sort of tools around meditation and mindfulness. And, you know, I had prayer, but I had a very narrow idea of what prayer meant. You know, I thought it was very much like, I have a specific request. I pray for it. I hope I get it, but I might not get it because it might not be God's plan. So, you know, I always kind of thought it was like touch and go with prayer, you know? And then when I moved to LA, because the culture there is so drug friendly and everyone's getting high and there's a dispensary on every block and the air smells faintly of weed all the time. This is an exaggeration. I love LA, I miss y'all. But because that was just so embedded in the culture, it became very, very easy to smoke all the time. And it was just something to do, you know? And because I was trying to be so intentional about building up my community and building up my social network, and that meant going to a lot of parties, you know, all of that like social anxiety, I would just alleviate it by just getting just a little bit high, just to loosen up, just to take the edge off, you know? Then it just became this thing that I was kind of constantly doing. But I always didn't like that. Like, there was a part of me that was always like, this isn't the kind of lifestyle I want to be living, right? I know that I am naturally a very joyful, you know, charming, charismatic. I just learned that charisma literally means like in Christ or like from Christ, which I think is really cool. But yeah, I'm naturally charismatic. The Holy Spirit is in me, y'all. He's in you too. You know, the Holy Spirit's here, right? And so I didn't like the fact that I was relying on weed to make me feel a certain kind of way. So that was always in the back of my mind. And so every now and again, I'd be like, you know what? Let's do like a quick weed fast to remember and to remind ourselves that actually we are not our drugs, you know, that I don't need this to have a good time, that I don't need this to be bubbly and fun on camera, that actually I am enough, essentially. And so I would just do a weed fast for a month, and I wouldn't even like get rid of the weed. I'd still be in my apartment, I just wouldn't smoke it. And that was my way of affirming to myself, like, yes, you are in control, you know? You're thinking about it and you like wish you could smoke, but you're choosing not to smoke and you're successfully not smoking. So it's not an addiction, right? And then once I left LA, I left the drugs with me. I gave them away to my friends, you know? And that's honestly, when I moved to LA, friend, you know, within the first week took me to the dispensary and gave me some drugs. And I'm so glad that I was able to pass on that tradition to the friends that I had in LA. And then I came here to Maryland. Well, first I went to Mexico City, and obviously I'm not going to be involved with drug cartels, so did not smoke a thing there. And honestly, that is where the weeping really got intense. And I think I didn't realize that until I was completely, like, didn't have any access to it, is that, you know, stuff comes up. When you are just alive, your stuff, as Mickey Singer would say, your stuff is constantly being hit, right? Stuff is coming up. And you either allow that stuff to come up and you let it go and you free that energy, or you squash that back down because you like, we're not dealing with that right now, all right? And what weed does is it gives you that false sense of like, you know what, we don't even need to worry about that. You're not actually letting that stuff go, but you're just like making it real quiet and small in your mind, so it's not even bothering you no more. And then you're living in this false sense of like, things are so good. But actually, and what I experienced is that when you get rid of that crutch, now all of the feelings are coming up. And it's leading to tears. So obviously in the summer is also when I quit my job. So already there was a lot of turmoil and tumultuousness in my life and changes happening and stuff was coming up anyway because of that. And then compounded with not having any sort of artificial flatteners of my emotions, stuff was really just a lot of weeping. That entire summer 2021 was a summer of weeping for me. I came into Maryland and I was ready to not do that no more, you know? So truly within like 2 days of landing in Maryland, I was like, are there drugs here? Like, what are we gonna do about that? And I was immediately back to being high. And I'm staying with my sister. My sister's actually a nurse, so you can imagine how distressing it was for her to see me smoke and see me smoke as much as I was. And she truly just pulled me aside and she was like, I just gotta tell you, girl, like you're hurting my heart, you know? And I was like, honestly, I love that you care about me this much. It's amazing. As you know, this is my journey, all right? And so I gotta do what I gotta do. And if in my journey things change, that's great. But honestly, you just making yourself sad if you're letting my choices, you know, cause you this much distress. So that's something you gotta work on, you know? So I'm giving her feedback, like, girl, do better. Still in the back of my mind, I'm like, girl, I don't want to actually be smoking this much, right? So onward I go in my spiritual journey. The weeping subsides somewhat, but you know, emotions are still coming up, which is really annoying. And then I decide to interview for the Timeless Wisdom Training. This is a 2-year training with Thomas Hubel. It involves a bunch of in-person retreats. It involves this online community of folks. You meet every month. You meet in smaller groups every month as well. And essentially you are healing collective trauma. Healing your trauma, you're healing ancestral trauma, you're getting together, you're healing collective trauma, you're doing all this cool interpersonal work, bunch of dope stuff, right? And it sounds really cool. I really want to do it. And so I apply and I interview for the training. I mentioned in my application that I did dabble in the marijuana, and my interviewer asked, well, you know, during the retreats, there's no drugs, there's no drinking. So is that cool with you? And I'm like, yeah, it's not that I have to get a hit before I like leave the house. Though there are people who have to do that, and honestly, like that's your journey as well. So like no judgment, honestly. But that's just not where I'm in my journey. Like I could go a week without smoking, like that's fine. And she was saying like, you know, in general, this whole program is gonna let a lot of light in, you know, and having these kind of substances in your body affects how much, you know, affects the way the light is coming in and all that. And now that I know about like alpha training, I really understand that truly like it really affects your ability to just like channel and receive all this amazing energy. And this was what I needed, because I was looking for a reason to like go cold turkey and give it up, and this was an amazing reason to do it. So I was like, bet. And literally from that interview, I have not smoked since. And throughout, so it's been like 3.5 months since then, right? And I've since gotten into the program, which is really exciting, and it starts next year. Throughout, I've been like pretty good about, there's a few things I do, right? So the first thing is, if the urge to smoke comes up on some Mickey Singer, I think, what is the feeling or emotion that is sparking this desire to smoke? You know, it's not coming from nowhere. Something happened inside of me and I'm like, man, I would really love to just be high right now. So what's going on there? And so it ended up being an amazing guidepost for me. And very often it had to do with how much energy and attention and focus I was putting on something that ultimately was out of my control, gonna work itself out, not even a problem, but I was blowing it up and focusing so much on it that it was like just growing way out of proportion, right? And in those moments, I wanted an external force to help me remember that it was all gonna be okay. The other thing that really helped was learning about the alpha waves and realizing that I was handicapping myself by getting high. Like it is an artificial way of getting your energy up, but ultimately it reduces my own ability to get myself there naturally. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do is be able to be completely, and that's probably a trauma response, but we'll unpack that some other time. But like, I like the idea of just being completely self-sufficient, you know, in terms of my energy and my mood. I'm not relying on a job, on a car, on an apartment, on a house, on a boyfriend, on an opportunity, on a trip, on a piece of jewelry, on a lipstick, like on a hairstyle. I'm not relying on anything to give me my worth and my value and my peace and my joy, it is 100% internal, coming from me, coming from God, right? I really didn't like the fact that weed was trying to encroach, you know, on my lifestyle in that way. Learning like from science that that's literally what it was doing, that was enough for me to be like, all right, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that. And all that said, if I were at a party and somebody was like, you want smoke? I think I'd be like, yeah. but now that I know all these things, and now that my tolerance is so low, which is super exciting, I know it would take very little for me to actually get high. And after those 3 weeks in Mexico, when I came back and I got high, I was so high, and it was not like, you know, there's like a level where it's fun and then it stops being fun, and then it's just like, and you just have to be there until it fades away, or until you take a nap, right? Sometimes I forget that there's a very small window of fun. You know, you have to be very intentional and careful, because you can very easily slip into the other part where it's not fun and you're just trapped in this like weird psyche you've created for yourself. And that's also what helps me like, I don't know if I actually really want to do all that. But I haven't been tested, so I haven't been given the opportunity to be like, you want to do some drugs? And I we'll see what happens, you know? I am making a point to make this video before my birthday, because anything could happen. Because it wouldn't be as, you know, it wouldn't be as salient if it's like, I went 3 months without smoking weed, but I didn't hit that blunt just like one time for fun, but that's fine, ignore that one. So, so I got a little bit of insurance. I am hedging my bets. But ultimately, if you know in your heart that you don't want to be smoking weed, stop. That's really what it comes down to. Like, there's a reason you don't want to do it. Don't do it. You know you can. It'll be fine. And if you are relying on it as a way to get through major social anxiety, or, you know, whatever depressive episode you're in, or whatever else, you basically self-medicating, do what you gotta do. That's on your spirit, you know? Dr. Gabor Mate talks about how, he talks about addiction a lot, and how with addiction, the thing you're using, the substance, it solves your short-term problem, right? The problem is that eventually relying on it over time starts to cause some way worse problems. And so I think it's important to note that, like, yeah, if you are using it right now as a way to self-medicate and get through something, if that's solving your problem, then that is what you need right now. But if you know that actually you are capable and you want to have a long-term solution that isn't external, you can also do that as well, you know? And I'm an example of someone who was able to do that, you know? I don't think it was ever so bad, but I came out of it on the other side, so you definitely can too. All right, I hope you enjoyed this reflection about my previous drug use. And I think that's the best part about being a freelancer, is that I'm no longer concerned about employers being like, drugs? Also, it's 2021. Like, we've been through too much as a people to still care about stuff like that. Senators and stuff now own like marijuana companies and things, and we're not going to talk about, well, we're not going to talk about the way the same senators who was creating them policies to lock up black people are the same ones who now own the drug companies. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it, because it'll only make us angry. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to see more. Let me know in the comments what your relationship is to that sweet, sticky, icky, ooh. And I'm not gonna make a joke about like, and if you wanna get high later, let me know, we can hang out, cause I don't wanna get high later and hang out. I don't want that at all. That would not be fun, because drugs are bad. All right, bye.